Hello and welcome. I'm Karen, and I'm so pleased that you could join me today for my workshop. This is the 4 steps to a calm, organised, and easy to maintain house that still feels like home. So let's get some housekeeping out of the way first. I would like everyone to be aware that this is a safe space today, and that many people feel guilty or embarrassed about their homes, and that I want you to know, pardon me, that this is a very common thing, and that you do not need to feel this way. And I'd like to thank you all for attending. And I hope that you really gain some helpful knowledge and value from my presentation, and at the very least know that you are not alone. So please try to keep your microphone muted for the presentation today. If you've got any questions, pop them in the chat. I've got the lovely Blair and Marianne helping me today, so they'll make a note of those, and I'll be able to answer any questions towards the end. The webinar today is planned to run for around an hour, but if there are lots of questions, I'm more than happy for it to go beyond that time so that I can answer everything. And do please stay tuned until the end of my presentation, because I have a special webinar bonus for you. So let's dive in. I'd like to start with an acknowledgement of country. I begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples joining me here today. So I'll go through a little bit about my organisation journey. I might stop the share so I can see all your lovely faces. And okay, so I am a busy wife, mother of 3 young boys, and I'm a business owner. My home is my sanctuary. It supports us, and even though it gets messy, putting things back in order at the end of the day is now a simple reset instead of this long, arduous chore. But it wasn't always this way. I was overwhelmed, overworked, and my stress levels, well, they were up to here. I was working as an embryologist at Tasmania's leading IVF facility here in Tasmania. I'll just like to give a little shout out to all the wonderful IVF specialists out there that are helping to create loving families. So I was struggling to find my balance in my life. I was leaving home to be in theatre before my kids and even the sun was up. And when I got home exhausted, my house was a mess. I was spending all of my free time tidying up and trying to maintain our home. I felt like a failure because I couldn't keep the house tidy, and guilty for not spending more time with my kids. But then when I was with my kids, I felt guilty that I wasn't at home cleaning the house. My health and relationships and work were suffering, and got to a point where I was so unwell that I couldn't even get out of bed because the fatigue was just holding me captive. I spent a whole day in bed recovering, and even though it wasn't a very long time, my house looked like a bomb had exploded. My husband was just totally overwhelmed and stressed out. The kids were tired and cranky, and just everything seemed to have fallen apart. I realized then how much I was taking on, and that I needed to teach my family how to maintain our home. And part of my job as a mother is to raise children that can take care of themselves as adults, and that includes knowing how to tidy and organise. Now, no one teaches us how to organise. We're just told and nagged and shouted at as kids to tidy your room. I was taking on too much, expecting perfection, and my health was suffering as a result. I knew there had to be a better way. I made the decision to educate myself, and that is when I discovered the fabulous Marie Kondo and the KonMari method of organisation. Until then, I hadn't realised my search for a better way was also a search for more joy in my life. And that's why I love KonMari so much, because joy is really the foundation of KonMari. I started small. I took baby steps, which then freed up my time to take more steps. And before long, my home was transformed. My kids and husband were helping to maintain our home, and I was finding my joy and balance again. In turn, I developed a greater understanding of myself and what I wanted for my life and for my family. So I quit my stressful 13-year career as an embryologist, and I jumped into my own business as a professional organiser. I'm now proud to call myself a certified KonMari consultant and help coach and guide busy women who are feeling overwhelmed and out of balance in their lives, just like I was. And people who spend too much time trying to tidy their home. There is an easier way, and while the path to get there may be filled with twists and turns and potholes, I promise the view from the top is worth it. So how do you do it? Pop in the chat if we're ready. Get excited. We ready to do this? Awesome. All right, I'll start sharing my screen again. Wonderful. Here it comes. Okay, so we're here today. The 4 steps to an organised home. So really, it's only with each of these 4 steps that we can have a properly organised and maintained home. So we start with setting goals. We need to really know why we're doing this, what we're hoping to achieve, and vision that ideal life, what we're hoping to achieve. Step 2 is to declutter. So we've got to go through, work out what we want to keep, what we don't want to keep. Step 3 is the actual organising process, finding a place for everything and everything in its place, just as the old saying goes. And then, of course, is the maintenance. And it's only once we've set that goal and we've done the decluttering and organising properly that the maintenance becomes so much easier. So my business, Organised with KLC, we're more focused on the feel of your home than the actual look of your home. I'm not all about having perfect Pinterest-worthy homes. I'm about how your home makes you feel, how it supports you. So as this study has shown, it's far more important how you feel about your home, and that even if it looks okay, if you feel negatively about it, it gives you those higher cortisol levels, which is that stress hormone. And we all know how detrimental stress can be to our both physical and mental health. But of course, an organised home has so many more benefits than just the actual space. I've just spoken about reducing our stress levels, but it goes so far beyond into improving our overall health, even improving digestion in your immune system, and can even help you to lose weight, believe it or not. You've got increased productivity because you're no longer looking for things that have become lost. Everything that you need can be easily accessed. Improves your relationships because no more is this conflict within your family over the clutter, and you're more likely to invite friends and family over to your house. Improves your sleep quality, it gives you more confidence, and of course more time and more money. So a little bit of a dive into exactly what the KonMari method is, if we're not already familiar with the wonderful Marie Kondo. So she is the author of The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying, among many other books, and 2 hit Netflix series. So her method starts with setting this detailed goal. The clearer, the clearer you can imagine this ideal lifestyle, this goal for what you're hoping to achieve, the easier it will be moving forward, because we use that vision for helping to decide what we're going to keep, which comes into the decluttering. Decluttering is done differently. It's not done according to room, it's done according to category. This makes making decisions so much easier. Imagine you're in a room and you're trying to decide between, you've got a piece of paper, you've got a book, you've got some pens, you've got a jumper, you've got a cup. So difficult to make a decision about those things and what you're going to keep. But if you were to bring together, say, all the jumpers, and you've got 5 jumpers, it's so much easier to make a decision about those 5 jumpers than those 5 totally random things. So you're far less likely to feel overwhelmed, get burnt out, and give up. I'd just like to point out here that while decluttering is generally done by category, it is still possible to work on one room at a time. You can KonMari one room at a time. So you can just work on your bedroom if that is a space that's causing you issues. You just, try to bring things together into smaller subcategories and make a decision about what you're going to keep, rather than randomly cleaning up the whole house and the whole space. The next thing that's a bit different about KonMari in decluttering is that we choose what we're going to keep, not what we want to discard. So this is done through the joy checking process, which I'll talk about in a moment. And also I'd like to point out that when I'm talking about decluttering and discarding, I'm not about just throwing everything randomly in the rubbish bin. Please be mindful about your belongings and think about how they can be donated or sold or recycled, and putting them in landfill should be a last resort. Organisation is actually done at the end after you do the decluttering. You don't have to do your whole house before you start organising, but once you've done a category, it's then a lot easier to actually organise that particular space of that particular group of items. And organisation methods should be very simple and easy to maintain. Things should be easily accessed. You don't want an organisation system that makes it more difficult to put something away. Okay, so let's dive in a little bit more of a closer look at how this method works and how I can help you with this method. So step 1 is setting your goals and defining that ideal lifestyle. So I ask you to just take a moment now and just imagine, what your life could be like at the end of this tidying journey that we're about to embark on together. What are you going to do with, that little bit of extra time? What are you hoping to achieve? You're going to be able to spend some more time with your family, going on adventures together. Are you going to be able to get back to that hobby that's been hiding away in the cupboard because you just haven't had the time or the space to get you stuck into it? Really imagine what you're going to achieve here. Step 2 is the decluttering process. So as I mentioned before, that the way that we choose what we're going to keep is through joy checking. And this is a wonderful process that made a huge difference in my house. So we start by bringing all the items together from a category or even a little subcategory. So if we're doing clothing, just work with your jumpers if that's easier for you, rather than bringing everything out of your wardrobe and from all over the house. When you've got that pile in front of you, choose your favourite item and hold that item and really feel what it means to you, feel that joy. So often when I ask people to hold their favourite item and ask them to tell me about it, they stand that little bit taller, they have a smile on their face, you can just see the joy radiating from them as they're telling me about this favourite item. So hold on to that feeling of joy and use that for the basis of the items that you're going to keep moving forward. And everything that you really feel that joy from, and that you can imagine using in your life moving forward. Keep it with confidence, and if not, discard with gratitude. I'd like to mention here joy in function, because a lot of people may be thinking right now, you know, oh, I don't like cooking, so should I throw out all my pots and pans? No, hold on. It's very important to keep things that are useful in our homes, of course. So have a think about the joy and the function of the item. I give you the example of a toilet brush here, which not a lot of people, I'm sure, would find a lot of joy in a toilet brush, but a clean toilet probably does. So, you know, if that toilet brush does a good job, then that's joy in function and it's worth keeping. Okay, discarding with gratitude may seem a little bit silly to thank an item for the role that it's played in your life, but if it is something that's difficult for you to let go of, then I encourage you to give it a try. Just, you know, thank you for what you've given me, and it's time for you to go now. It can actually be really, really therapeutic, and it makes that letting go that little bit easier. And also keep in mind that we can donate these items, we can sell them. They don't all have to be discarded, which again can help with letting them go. And if you can find a charity that you're really passionate about, something like Vinnie's here in Australia and Dress for Success, something that you're passionate about, again, it can make that letting go that little bit easier. So the first KonMari category is clothes. Like I said, you know, we gather everything from around the house to form a pile. So, you know, if it's all your clothes, great, go for it. Otherwise, just go for a smaller subcategory within the clothing category. Start with that favourite item, feel it, check for joy in all the remaining items, and then try to have around 4 piles, things that you're going to keep, things that you're going to donate, things you're going to sell, and then anything that you want to try on, put it to the side and come back to that at the end. As we're doing the joy checking process, we want to keep the momentum up. We want to keep feeling that joy. So don't stop and try on items as you're going through. It can slow down the process and you can get a little bit lost. Also, when it comes to anything that is sentimental, I'll put that item to the side and come to it at the very end. It'll make making decisions on those sentimental items much easier. A little before and after of a client's clothing here for you. Very messy drawers, hard to find what you want. After a declutter and a KonMari fold, so much easier to find exactly what you want. You can see that everything's folded and stored vertically rather than one on top of the other. And in this case, I've actually used some small baskets to help corral the clothes as well, stop them from falling over. You don't have to spend a lot of money on all these different organising products. These were only $1 or $2 from the dollar shop. But also you can get shoe boxes from your local shoe shop, for example. They're a perfect size for putting your clothes in, and of course they're free. Move through. So just a little bit about the KonMari fold. It's become quite famous, the KonMari method for the folding. So really what we're hoping to achieve by folding our clothes is to make them smaller and easier to handle. And with all KonMari folding, the aim is to first form a rectangle. As you can see here, we're folding the sides in towards the centre to form that perfect little rectangle. And we can then fold that rectangle smaller and smaller until we get to the size that we want for our particular storage space. So just a little talk about a client that I worked with a little while ago. We'll call her Kate for privacy reasons. So she was very stressed and overwhelmed by her bedroom and the clothes within it. 1 second. Okay, so she was spending her Sundays planning her clothes for the week. And so it was so hard for her to find what she wanted in her cluttered up wardrobe. So I worked with her to joy check her clothes, and then we organised what we had remaining, so that she had a spot specific for work-related clothes, made it so much easier for her to find what she wanted. And she then found, after working with me, that she no longer needed to spend her Sundays finding these clothes to wear for the week. So in the morning, she was just then able to open up her wardrobe, grab what she wanted, and be ready to go. So this obviously created a lot less stress, and she said that it made her feel so much lighter after we did this decluttering process. I will also mention that when she did find these clothes that she was pulling out on a Sunday, she was putting them into a separate wardrobe, like a second wardrobe in her bedroom. So that obviously made the space quite crowded and small feeling. And she found that she no longer needed that additional wardrobe. So she was able to sell that, and it improved the whole look and feel of her bedroom, and not just making her time, easier. And she was then able to spend her Sundays with her family, which was just a wonderful win for her. Okay, the next common category is books. Again, it's gathering the books from all over the house, including your magazines, but work in smaller subcategories if this is easier. You may be tempted to just look at your books on a bookshelf and look at the spines and go, try to choose which ones you want, but really do try to take them off the bookshelves and hold them. It will make the decision making a lot easier. Books are heavy. Books can be very heavy, so don't injure yourself, please. Work just by a smaller subcategory of books, or by a shelf if that makes it easier for you. And again, find that favourite book, remember what that joy feels like, and use that as the basis for keeping all your books moving forward. Again, if we come across anything that is sentimental, put it aside and we'll come back to it later. I also like to mention that a lot of people, when they see a bookshelf become less full of books, they get a bit worried that you've got the empty spaces in their bookshelf. But really, this is a beautiful spot for you to store sentimental items. A photograph of a loved one, a little sentimental knick-knack box with sentimental items in it, a little plant. It can really look lovely. And this is a client's child's bedroom. As you can see, it's so much easier to find the book that you want here. And there's a lovely little spot down the bottom for storing some little furry friends. This particular bedroom had a couple of bookshelves in it to store everything. So after we went through decluttering and organising properly, we were able to condense it into this one space. Paper is the third category. This can be a very big, overwhelming one for a lot of people. But, take it just one step at a time, work in smaller subcategories, and you'll get there, I promise. The aim with paper is to discard everything, because paper generally doesn't spark joy. But, of course, there are a lot of things that we need to keep, we have to keep. So there's those three main categories. There's the immediate attention things, our bills and school paperwork, things that we need to deal with straight away. I like to store these in a magazine holder or something that will help to store them vertically, because then you can see what needs to be dealt with straight away, rather than putting them flat in a drawer somewhere where they might get lost and forgotten. There's the semi-permanent items, your medical information, your manuals. Encourage you to have a look with manuals online to find out if you can find a digital copy of your manual, rather than having to hold on to the big, heavy physical manual itself. Also, then there's the permanent items like our birth certificates and passports, our taxes and insurance. These are really great to store in a easy grab and go kind of a container, like a hard plastic box of some sort, because then if, heaven forbid, there is some kind of an emergency, like a bushfire or flood, something where you can quickly grab those really important documents and get out, that can be really helpful if anything was to happen. Again, paper can be a sentimental item, so if that you come across something that's sentimental, grab it, put it aside, and we'll go through that later. This is a client's office. So you can see, after we have rearranged the workspace a little bit and dealt with a lot of that paper clutter, The space is so much easier to work in and, of course, a lot more productive. Mono is the fourth and probably the largest category. It's all the miscellaneous items. So we've got the kitchen things, laundry, bathroom, garage, all those other things that don't fall under the previous categories. This is a really great one to remember joy and function, and a little bit of maths can actually really help. So take, for example, you've got a 20-piece dinner setting, but you only have a table that seats 6 or 8 people. Do you really need to keep all those additional items? And of course, if you come across something that is sentimental, put it aside and we'll deal with it later. So here we have a client's linen cupboard. This space had a lot of bedding that was actually for beds that they no longer had, small single beds. The children had grown up and left home. They no longer had those single beds. So that was a really good one to go through and work with. And then the items that we remained, we were able to pop them into these plastic boxes that, as you can see, are beautifully labelled so that anybody in this house knows exactly where to go to find the item, but also to put it back. And these plastic boxes are great for deep shelves because we can slide them out like a drawer, and then you can instantly access what you've got. And again, of course, everything is filed vertically. Here we have a laundry. This is another one, really narrow, deep cupboards. So after a bit of a declutter and a joy check, we've added some, again, some clear boxes here. These are great ones from Kmart that have got little rollers on the bottom to help protect the shelving. And so they pull out just like a drawer, so you can access everything at the back and nothing gets lost. So I'll just take a moment to have a little bit of a chat about pantries. If you're going to do just one area of your home, I recommend that you do the pantry because while it's a small space, we use our pantries every day, multiple times a day even. And we've got this increased cost of living, the stress of trying to find something to prepare for dinner. We've got a pantry full of food, but nothing to make for dinner. So working on pantry can make a really big difference. In Australia, over $2,000 of food waste is equated to each family per year, and that equates to 1 in every 5 grocery bags. Quite astounding. So just take a moment now to imagine what it'll be like to have your pantry organised. Coming home from a long day at work and knowing exactly what you're going to prepare for dinner. You can instantly access everything that you need. Your mornings, they feel stress-free. As your kids make their own lunch boxes, they give you the time to prepare for the day ahead. Best of all, there's no more guilt over wasted food that got lost at the back of the pantry. So here we have a before and after of a client's kitchen. As you can see in this pantry, again, it was very narrow and very deep, very hard to get at the items at the back. A lot of things had gone out of date and had to be thrown out. So by adding some very simple and inexpensive organisational products here, like some drawers to access things at the back, and there's a couple of turntables in there as well. It's a really great way to corral items that are similar together so that you know where to go to access each thing that you want, but also you can reach everything towards the back. And of course, a little declutter of some drawers so that we can easily find what we need. So the last category is those sentimental items. Now, as we've found going through, anything can be sentimental, and it's important to leave them towards the end because it makes joy checking those items so much easier. You can rely on that heightened sense of joy that you've developed as you've been working through the other categories. And remember to ask yourself, will this item really support me in my new life moving forward? Keep in mind that memories are within us. They're not within an object. And is it possible for you to take a picture rather than keep the actual item? But of course, if this is something that means a lot to you, if this brings you joy, if it's going to support you, then keep it, and keep it with confidence. This is your home. These are your belongings. Only you can make the decision about them. If it is time to let the item go, then let it go with gratitude. This is a really lovely one to thank the item for what it's meant for you. You can see in this photo here somebody that had a lot of t-shirts that were obviously being stored away somewhere, weren't really being used and enjoyed, but they meant a lot to them. So they've been made here into a quilt, which is a lovely way to display their items. And at the bottom, we can see a little set of boxes that can be in drawers. There's a photograph there to line the bottom of the drawer. There's a little dish. There's one client had a china set from a marriage that had broken down. So this china set still meant a lot to them, but they were never going to use it. So they decided that they were going to keep just a small dinner plate, and that's where they're storing, their rings and their jewellery. And, it's a nice way to honour the item, but also not to have to keep the whole lot, which was weighing them down. I'll also mention here greeting cards. Greeting cards are something that we tend to hold on to for many, many reasons, but I think it's very important for us to acknowledge the purpose of an item, the purpose of items within our life. So something like a greeting card, the purpose of that item is for the person giving it to you to acknowledge that they're thinking of you, that they're sending their love, all these sorts of wonderful feelings. Once we've opened the card and read it and absorbed that message, the purpose has been fulfilled, and it's not necessary for us to keep that item anymore. But of course, if this means a lot to you because of the picture or because of the person who gave it to you, then keep it, and keep it with confidence. There can be many reasons why we hold on to unwanted items. Here's things that we really don't want, but we feel like we have to keep them. So there can be an attachment to the past, something that, but I wore it when, but I'm never going to wear it again. There's that fear of the future there, but might need it just in case. Living with the fear of the future, what might come, is really no way for us to live these ideal life that we're trying to achieve. There's also the guilt of, but I should give it, maybe, my great aunt gave it to us. Think about, would that person actually mind if you let it go? And would they even notice if you let the item go? Also, there's the aspirations and the hope, one day I might take up this hobby again, one day I might. If the one day I might is something that you're hoping will come because of this tidying process you're going through, if this one day I might is part of your ideal life, then great, you keep that item and you use it moving forward. But if one day I might really isn't going to ever come, think about whether it's time to let the item go. And there's also the cost. Oh, I should keep it because it was expensive. This one comes up a lot. Have a think about whether you actually are going to keep the item, whether you're actually going to use it, and what the expense is on you for actually keeping the item, because these things, they still need to be maintained and looked after. Maybe you can recoup some of that cost by selling the item instead. But most of all, just be honest with yourself and mindful of what you really want and need in your life moving forward. So step 3 is the organisation itself. So we do this last after we do the decluttering. As I mentioned, you don't have to do all the clothes, books, paper, so on before you start organising. Once you've done some clothes, organise them, put them away. That's fine. Keep it simple, keep it accessible. You can see here we're looking straight down on a chest of drawers with the clothes folded vertically. So it's easy just to reach in and grab what you want, and also easy to put things away. We don't want our storage to make it difficult for us to get our things out or put them away again. We want to keep it simple, keep it accessible. Store with use in mind as well, especially when it comes to things like kids' toys. If we use the example of Lego, for example, we often see on the internet people have organised their Lego by colour, for example, or organised them into sets. But have a think about how your kids play and use this item. Is this something that, is that how they play with the Lego? Do they actually get things from different colours? Do they play with sets? Or do they prefer to have a big old pile of Lego and use their imaginations? And think about how are they going to put the items back. It may be great and look wonderful for you to have it labelled out by colour, but are they actually going to break the things down and then put them back away in colour, or are you going to have to do it for them? We want to keep things simple and keep storage and use in mind. Store vertically where possible, like we've got these the clothes and also the drawer down there, and store similar items together. If you can see in this drawer, it's an electronics drawer. So if you have an electronic item, you know, the electronic drawer, that's where it needs to go. Also, adding a label can help when you've got multiple people in your home, because then everybody knows where the items belong, and also they know what is in there so they can easily access it. And always, where possible, involve the whole family so everyone knows where everything is. Step 4 is the maintenance, of course. So, you know, we need to do it together. It shouldn't just all be on us as the mum or, you know, the head of the family. So having a family discussion before we even start the organising process can be really, really beneficial. And we as a family actually have a family discussion once a week. So, you know, it doesn't have to be anything super formal or super long, just, you know, around the dinner table, we have a bit of a chat about our week and, you know, what we might be grateful for, something wonderful that's happened that day. And then we can plan out our meals for the week together, what we'd all like to eat. We can plan, you know, maybe this particular room's gotten a bit out of hand, so we're going to, you know, focus on that one a bit more this week. And something that works really, really well for my family is to do a 10-minute speed tidy. So at the end of the day, we put the clock on and we make a bit of a game out, a bit of a competition, you know, let's see how much we can get done in these 10 minutes. And it's amazing if we all work together, just 10 minutes, you know, there's a timer on so the kids know it's not a never-ending task. It's a short period of time. We can get a lot done and we can really reset our home, especially now that all this decluttering and organising is done. The maintenance is so much quicker and easier. Involving the kids as much as possible in the process is wonderful. My 8-year-old has just flown with it. He's so proud of his bedroom. It's always neat as a pin, and all of his really sentimental toys that mean a lot to me, he has them on display with pride, and it's really lovely to see. So you may come across a bit of pushback from your family. This course is quite normal, but I encourage you to work on you, your belongings. It's important not to go ahead and declutter other people's belongings, throw out things that might mean a lot to them, even if they don't mean a lot to you. This can really have a breakdown in trust, and we don't want to do that. So you need to encourage them to work on their items, and of course you can help them out here. And even if it is just you, they will then see the impact that this has had on you and your life, and how much happier you are now that your items are sorted and organised. So hopefully they will then begin to follow in your footsteps. But of course, if they don't let that stress you out. Don't let that become your burden to carry. Let them be, and work on you first. Planning is very, very important to help maintain, but also for our sanity, taking things out of here. So I've already mentioned having a family meeting. That can be really beneficial, especially with the start. Meal planning. If we can plan our meals at the start of the week, it makes buying the groceries so much easier. And also when we've had a really busy day, we know exactly what we're going to do. We're already prepared. A lot of people like to meal prep as well, chop up some veggies or something, or prepare a double batch of something and freeze it for later. This again can be really beneficial in helping to keep the family moving along and reduce our stress levels. doing a daily to-do list first thing in the morning can be wonderful. Getting everything from in here out onto a piece of paper makes it so much easier, and we can tick off those items as we complete them during the day and get that real sense of accomplishment. And number one is to delegate, of course. Even if it is just something small, if you can find, if there's something on your to-do list that you don't have to do and somebody else can perhaps do it for you, let them do it. Okay, there can be a couple of common concerns when it comes to getting started in the organising process. Of course, I don't have the time to do this. I'm already so busy, and I don't have the money. So if I address time, yes, it does take time to organise and to declutter, but work in small batches and assign yourself a set number of minutes per week. You know, even if it's just 15 minutes, half an hour, an hour, assign that time, put it in your diary, and make an appointment with yourself, just like you would for a personal trainer or something else that's happening. And you'll find that as starting small, taking small steps, it will make your life easier, and you will have more time moving forward, and then that'll give you more time and it'll snowball until you've got the whole thing completed. And also, I don't have the money to organise is another big one. You don't have to go out and buy really expensive organisational products. You know, I mentioned, you know, buying, you know, getting a couple of cardboard boxes from the shoe shop so that you can store things. But also, once you've decluttered, you will probably find you've got a lot more organisational things already, that you don't actually have to go out and buy additional products. And while working with a professional organiser will help save time, it will help save money, it will help keep you on the track. Believe it or not, we're not actually that expensive. A lot of people, oh, I couldn't possibly afford a professional organiser, but I personally have a lot of packages that I think suit lots of different budgets and lots of different time scales, you know, depending upon how busy you are. I'm sure I've got something that will suit you. So are we getting ready to start? We're getting excited to organise our homes and make this big impact on our lives. Start by making an action plan. Like I mentioned, you know, write down in your diary, this day I'm going to allocate 15 minutes. It's going to be at, you know, 5 o'clock. I'm going to do 15 minutes of organising. And I'm going to start in this room, or I'm going to start with this category. You know, plan it out. It makes it so much easier to help keep you on track. Consider your time and your energy levels. So, organising can become very mentally fatiguing. So take regular breaks, and also only pull out what you think that you can deal with at the time. You don't want to get super excited and pull everything out and then be left with a bigger mess than when you started. So work in small batches. I like to do no more than 2 to 3 hours when I'm working in person with somebody, shorter if we're working online, because it really is very mentally and physically fatiguing. So try not to do too much at once, smaller batches, but to keep the momentum going and do it regularly. Also, try not to have music playing in the back or something just very soft in the background, because you want to make sure that as you're joy checking, that it is the item that brings you joy, not the fun music that you're bopping along to in the back. Okay, and yeah, don't go out and buy organisational products until you see what you already have. A lot of people, you know, we've already got boxes and cartons and things, and we want to keep things simple, we want to keep it easy, and we don't want to spend too much money. We don't want to be buying extra items and then have them become even more clutter for us. And last of all, ask for help if you need it. You know, have a friend come over and help you out if you need them to. You know, an extra pair of hands can be really beneficial, but also, you know, sitting in your wardrobe surrounded by toys, it can be really lonely, really isolating. So asking for help is a really great step, and asking a friend or hiring a professional can be really beneficial. So that comes to what my role is as a consultant. So yes, I am a KonMari method coach, so I can teach you this method and I can support and guide you through the organising process. I'm also there for accountability to help keep you motivated, to help keep you moving through. I'm also that human connection so that we're not alone in this process. If I'm working in person with people, and I do in-person services for Southern Tasmania, then I'm that second pair of hands. Working with a consultant can also help to save you time, work through the process quicker, help keep things moving, and also save you money in the long run, because yes, we're moving quicker, but you're also not buying all these additional things. And so often if we're feeling a little bit stressed, we tend to therapeutic shop, and we don't want to add to our clutter and we don't want to spend that additional money. And also, no, I lost that train of thought. That's okay. Yes, working with a consultant can help maintain your momentum. I remember what I was going to say now. When we've no, it's gone again. I'm sorry. We'll move on. Okay, so today I am offering all of you wonderful people out there a free 30-minute Clutter Breakthrough Session with me. So I'll ask the lovely Blair or Mary Ann to pop a link in the chat for you. Now, during these free sessions with me, you will be able to discuss your space and your individual needs. We're also going to start your KonMari journey together, because we're going to work together to find out what you're hoping to achieve, and I'm going to help you to get really clear on that ideal life that you're hoping to achieve moving forward. And then at the end, we're going to discover if it makes sense for us to work together. I do have a range of virtual services as well as in person, so I'd love to be able to talk to you about those, but first and foremost, I would like this session to be about discussing you and your needs and getting you started on your journey. So you can see there's the link down there and also in the chat. So Marianne and Blair, if there are any questions that have popped up in the chat, well, feel free to shout them out to me.
I don't see any. If you want to enter a question now.
None there yet. All right, I will stop my share for a moment and so I can see everybody. Hello. I'll open the floor then. Does anybody have any questions for me? Raise a hand. Marianne, yes?
Sure, so I have a question. So I know you've got kids and I've got kids that are a little bit older, but we seem to be overwhelmed with the amount of things that come from school as well as daily things that come in the mail.
Yes,
how do you
absolutely
handling that?
Yes. Well, often the things that come home from school are paper, so that's probably the paper category there. Start with looking at the purpose of the item. Is this something that I need to deal with straight away? Is it something that needs to be signed and go back, for example? Try to deal with them straight away if possible. If you can't deal with it right then and there, pop it in that magazine folder I told you about with so that you know that it's there and I have to deal with that as soon as I can. Then also when it comes to our, kids bring home a lot of art and things that they're very excited about. Maybe think about having somewhere special to store, to display those items, and even, frame a couple of really special things and have them up on the wall. Rejoice in your child's joy of their item and how much that item means to them. And then, we can't always have everything displayed, of course. But, as time goes, it can be okay to then part with that item. And I'll get one thing and I'll show you. I love these. Okay, so this is a file box. This is my child's. I can see it here with his name on it. So inside there are all of these little tabs. Ooh, you can see, ooh, there we are. So there is a tab in there and a pocket for every year, starting from preschool, prep, grade 1, so on and so forth through. So any of those really special items, we can store them in there so that he's got a special spot for his special items. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we got a new message that's popped in. Let's have a little look what's happening here. All right, so this is just from Remy saying, I found your suggestion about holding an item and experiencing joy that it brings me will be helpful and surprising. The use of gratitude to thank an item for the joy it brought me sounds like a very good way to feel better, but not keeping that item. Yes, indeed. And thank you for those suggestions. No, you're more than welcome. Yes, taking a photo, yes. Is it Ronnie? Yes, of an item is very helpful to help recharge the memory of it as you release it. That's lovely. I really agree with that one too. Wonderful. Are there any other questions out there for me? Yeah, oh, Blair, thank you. Yes, Blair.
If we don't know where to start because our house feels overwhelming, is there a category or two that you would suggest would be a good place to start?
Yes, absolutely. Strictly speaking, KonMari, you do start with the clothes, move on to the books, the paper, the kimono, miscellaneous items, and then the sentimental at the very end. So yeah, if you are feeling very overwhelmed and not sure where to start with the clothes. Yeah, work in smaller categories within the clothing category. Yes.
Great, thank you.
No, you're welcome. All right. Any more questions before we part today?
What do you find is the biggest challenge for your clients usually?
The biggest challenge? Oh, starting. Just getting started. That's the biggest challenge. Yeah. Once they actually reach out for help, they're ready to go then. And yeah, once we start the process and start seeing the impact that this can have and how much easier it actually is. So often, we see this wall of clutter and stuff around us, and we just don't know where to start. It's just too overwhelming. So by bringing things into smaller categories and dealing with just this and then moving on, we just deal with this, it does make it a lot easier. We start to see how quickly we can go through it as well. So many people are really overwhelmed by how quickly, or not overwhelmed, but very excited by how quickly we can actually move through this process. So for example, that Kate that I worked with, that was only a 3-hour session, and she did have a lot of clothes. So by the end of that session, there are actually 13 garbage bags full of clothes that we were able to then pass on to a charity. She was really thrilled she was able to then give that back to somebody, but also then she had everything that she needed in her wardrobe. So often, there's the statistic of our closet. We only use 20% of our clothes 80% of the time. So there's a lot in the closet that we don't really need and don't use. And yes, that made a huge impact to her life, to just a 3-hour session. Yeah.
Great. Sounds like you could provide great value for everybody.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Yes. So yeah, I'd love everybody to jump on and follow that link. I'd love to have an individual chat with you all. I promise I'm not a hard sale person. I just really love to have a chat, and I'll be sending you all an email later on with the recording. I'm sorry, silly me, forgot the very start of it, but oh well. Most of the info will be there. So yes, I'll send you an email with the link, which it should be up on my Facebook site. I'll just be there for a couple of days, but yes, you can rewatch it. And if you've got some questions but we're a bit shy to ask face-to-face like this in a big group, then please feel free to email me, or yes, please jump on and use that free 30-minute Clutter Breakthrough session with me. I'd love to see a couple of people. It's wonderful. So I'll say thank you very much to the lovely Blair and Marianne for helping me today and helping to admit people and keeping track of the chat. So thank you, and hopefully I'll see you all soon.